I didn't believe in fate until I saw a mother beg a stranger to save her child, not with words, with her eyes. And in that moment, I understood, some choices aren't really choices at all. It started like every other morning. I'd gotten into the habit of walking the old riverside path just after dawn, when the mist still clung to the reeds and the world felt like it belonged to something older than people. The path wasn't much, just packed dirt and wildflowers nobody bothered to name, but it was mine. Quiet, predictable, safe. That morning the quiet shattered. I heard barking first, not the playful kind, not the warning kind, either. This was frantic, desperate, the kind of sound that makes your chest tighten before your brain catches up. I stopped walking. The barking didn't stop. It echoed off the water, bouncing through the cattails, and I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Something was wrong. I pushed through the reeds toward the sound, my boots sinking into soft mud, and that's when I saw her. A German shepherd, soaked through, her coat dark and slicked against her ribs, stood at the river's edge. She wasn't barking at me. She didn't even seem to notice me. Her eyes were locked on the water, and her whole body trembled with a kind of raw primal panic I'd never seen in an animal before. Her tail was low, her ears pinned back, and she kept barking, over and over, like if she just made enough noise, the world would listen. I followed her gaze. At first, I didn't understand what I was looking at. The water was shallow there, maybe knee-deep, just where the current slowed near a bend, and then I saw it. A crocodile, small, maybe 4 feet long, but that didn't matter, because clamped in its jaws, limp and impossibly tiny, was a puppy. The German shepherd's puppy. Time did something strange then. It stretched, my breath caught. The mother lunged forward. One sharp, desperate step, and the crocodile shifted, just barely, just enough to tighten its grip. The puppy let out a sound, a weak, muffled whimper that cut straight through me, and the mother froze. She stood there, half in the water, half on the bank, her whole body locked in a nightmare. She wanted to charge. Every muscle in her body screamed to attack, but she couldn't, because if she did, if she moved wrong, if she startled it, if the crocodile decided to drag backward into deeper water, her baby was gone. So she just stood there, barking, begging the universe for an answer it wasn't giving her. I realized I was holding my breath. This wasn't just some wild animal encounter. This wasn't nature doing what nature does. This was a mother trapped in the worst moment of her life, and she knew it. You could see it in the way she kept glancing between the crocodile and the shore, calculating, trying to find an opening that didn't exist. You could hear it in the way her barks changed pitch, sharp, then pleading, then broken, and then she looked at me. I don't know how to explain it without sounding like I'm making it up, but when that dog turned her head and locked eyes with me, I felt it. Not just eye contact. Recognition. She wasn't looking at me like I was a random human who'd wandered into her crisis. She was looking at me like I was the only option she had left. Her ears lifted slightly, her barking stopped, and in that silence I heard the river, the wind through the reeds, my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. She didn't bark again, she just waited. The crocodile hadn't moved. It sat there in the shallow water, the puppy still clamped in its jaws, its prehistoric eyes unreadable, patient. The puppy's tiny body hung limp. I couldn't tell if it was breathing. I looked at the water, too deep to run through, too unpredictable. If I moved wrong, if I spooked that crocodile, it would bolt backward into the current, and that puppy would disappear under the surface before anyone could stop it. The mother took one slow step toward me, not aggressive, not demanding, just asking. What do you do when a mother asks you to save her child? I felt my boots sink deeper into the mud. The river was cold. The crocodile was still. The puppy wasn't moving anymore. And then the mother did something that broke me. She let out a sound, not a bark, not a growl, a howl. Low and guttural and so full of grief that it didn't sound like it came from an animal at all. It sounded like loss, like watching everything you love slip away and knowing you can't stop it. The crocodile shifted, just slightly. Its jaw tightened. The puppy's body twitched once, a weak, involuntary spasm. And I realized, if I didn't do something in the next 10 seconds, I was going to watch that baby die. The mother looked at me again. Her eyes were wide, clear, desperate. I don't know if dogs can pray, but if they can, that's what she was doing. The crocodile began to pull backward, slowly, testing the weight, testing its escape. The puppy's head dipped toward the water. The mother's legs buckled slightly, like her body wanted to collapse, but her mind wouldn't let it. And I took a step forward. I didn't have a plan. I just knew I couldn't stand there and do nothing. The water was colder than I expected. It soaked through my boots immediately, then my jeans creeping up past my knees as I waded in. Every step felt heavy. Slow, the mud tried to hold me back, sucking at my feet like it knew this was a bad idea. The crocodile's eyes tracked me. Cold. Calculating. It didn't panic. Didn't thrash. It just watched the puppy still locked in its jaws, and I realized something that made my blood run cold. This thing wasn't afraid of me, but I couldn't think about that. I forced myself to move slowly, deliberately. One wrong move, one sudden splash, and it would bolt. I knew that. The mother knew that too. She'd gone completely silent. I glanced at her. She stood perfectly still on the bank, her body rigid, her eyes locked on her puppy, but she wasn't barking anymore, wasn't lunging. It was like she understood. We were in this together now, and any sound, any movement from her could ruin everything. That's when I saw the branch. It was half submerged near the reeds, long and thick enough to reach, not to fight with. I wasn't that stupid, but maybe to distract, to give the crocodile something else to focus on besides the puppy in its mouth. I reached for it slowly, my hand trembling as I wrapped my fingers around the wet wood. The crocodile shifted slightly, its body angling toward me. My heart hammered in my chest. I extended the branch toward it, not aggressive, just there, creating a new problem for it to solve. The crocodile's head turned, just a fraction, just enough, and the mother exploded into action. She didn't go for its head like I thought she would. She went low, lunging at its side, her teeth snapping at the scales near its belly. The crocodile jerked, startled, and for one impossible second, its jaw loosened. The puppy slipped free. He hit the water with a tiny splash, his body limp and weightless. Everything happened at once. The crocodile whipped around, jaws snapping at empty air. The mother dove forward, water spraying everywhere. And God help me, I waded in deeper. My hands plunged into the cold water, searching, grasping. I felt fur, grabbed, lifted. The puppy hung in my hands, soaked and motionless. Too light, too small. Behind me, the mother had already moved. She clamped her jaws gently around the puppy's scruff, and pulled backward with a strength I didn't know she had. Together we stumbled toward the shore, the water fighting us with every step. The crocodile recovered faster than I'd hoped. I heard it before I saw it, the sudden rush of water, the heavy splash. I turned just in time to see it charging, its body cutting through the shallows like a torpedo. My foot slipped, the mud gave way beneath me. I went down hard. My shoulder hit the water first, then my side. The river rushed over my face. I gasped, choking, my hands scrambling for purchase on nothing. The world tilted, blurred, and through the spray and panic, I saw the crocodile coming straight at me. But then something changed. The mother dropped the puppy gently on the bank, safe out of reach, and turned back. She didn't hesitate, didn't calculate. She just moved. She launched herself back into the water, positioning her body between me and the crocodile, between danger and the two lives she'd just fought to save. Her hackles were raised, her teeth bared, and she let out a growl that didn't sound like a warning. It sounded like a promise. The crocodile stopped. For a moment everything froze. The mother stood chest deep in the river, water streaming off her fur, her eyes locked on the predator. The crocodile's head swayed slightly, its ancient brain processing this new equation. Me, struggling to my feet behind her. The puppy on the bank. And this mother, this impossible fearless mother, standing her ground. The growl came again, lower this time, final. And the crocodile backed down. It slid backward slowly, its body sinking beneath the surface until only its eyes remained visible. Then those disappeared too. The water settled. The ripples faded. The mother didn't move until she was sure. Until the river was just a river again. Only then did she turn, wade back to shore, and collapse beside her puppy. Her whole body was shaking, exhausted, drained, but alive. I dragged myself onto the bank, my clothes heavy and cold, my hands trembling so badly I could barely grip the mud. And that's when I heard it. The smallest sound in the world, a whimper, then another. The puppy's tiny body twitched. His leg moved. His eyes cracked open. The mother let out a sound I'll never forget. Relief and love and exhaustion, all wrapped into one broken beautiful noise. She pressed her nose against him, licking frantically, checking every inch of his small body. He was alive. We'd won. For a moment nobody moved. The puppy lay on his side, breathing in shallow, rapid gasps. His tiny chest rose and fell, rose and fell. Each breath felt like a miracle I didn't deserve to witness. The mother hovered over him, her tongue working frantically across his wet fur, cleaning him, warming him, checking for damage her eyes couldn't see. I stayed where I'd fallen, half in the mud, half on solid ground, my entire body shaking from cold and adrenaline. My shoulder throbbed where I'd hit the rocks, my lungs burned, but I couldn't look away from them. The mother paused her frantic licking and lifted her head. Her ears swiveled back toward the river. Every muscle in her body went rigid. I heard it too. The water was moving again. My stomach dropped. No, not again. We'd won. We'd gotten him out. It was over. But the river didn't care what we thought was fair. The crocodile surfaced 20 feet downstream, its body angling back toward us, slower this time, more deliberate. It had retreated, yes, but it hadn't left, and now it was watching, waiting, calculating whether the meal was still worth the fight. The mother saw it immediately. What happened next wasn't panic. It was something colder, something that came from a place deeper than fear. She didn't bark, didn't lunge. She simply stood up, positioned herself directly between the crocodile and her puppy, and planted her feet. Her body language changed entirely. The frantic mother was gone. In her place stood something ancient, primal, a creature that had decided, with absolute clarity, that nothing would get past her. Not today, not ever. The growl that came from her chest wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It was low and steady and controlled, and it carried a message that transcended species. Come closer and find out what happens. I tried to move, to get to my feet, to help somehow, but my body wouldn't cooperate. My legs felt like water. My hands couldn't find purchase in the mud. The crocodile moved closer. One slow, deliberate push through the shallows. The mother didn't flinch. Her head lowered slightly. Her lips pulled back just enough to show teeth. And that growl, God, that growl. It never wavered, never rose in pitch. It just rumbled on, steady as a heartbeat, promising violence if the line was crossed. Behind her, the puppy whimpered, a tiny helpless sound. She didn't turn to look, didn't take her eyes off the threat for even a second, but her tail shifted, just slightly, curling protectively closer to where her baby lay. The crocodile stopped. I watched its eyes, those flat, emotionless predator eyes that had seen a million years of survival. They studied the mother, studied me struggling in the mud behind her, studied the distance, the odds, the cost. Predators are smart. They don't fight battles they don't need to win. The mother took one step forward, not aggressive, just deliberate, claiming space, drawing a line in the mud and the water and the air between them. The growl deepened, and the crocodile made its choice. It turned, slowly, almost casually, like it had never really been interested. Its body sank lower in the water, and with one powerful sweep of its tail, it pushed backward into the deeper current. The water swallowed it, the ripples spread, and then it was gone, for real this time. The silence that followed felt impossible, like the whole world had been holding its breath, and finally, it could exhale. The mother stood there for another 10 seconds, watching, waiting, making absolutely certain the threat was gone. Her body remained tense, ready, her eyes scanning the water for any sign of movement. Nothing came. Only then, only when she was completely sure, did she turn back to her puppy. And the moment she did, everything in her changed. The fierce protector melted away. Her legs trembled, her head dropped. She collapsed beside her baby, her body curling around him like a shield, and she let out a sound I didn't know dogs could make. Not a howl, not a bark, something closer to a sob. She pressed her face against the puppy's tiny body, breathing him in, licking him frantically again, as if she needed to prove to herself that he was real, that he was safe, that they'd both survived. The puppy squirmed slightly under her attention. His tail twitched, once then twice. His eyes opened a little wider, and he made a small confused sound, like he didn't quite understand what had just happened, but he knew his mother was there, and that was enough. I finally managed to pull myself up onto solid ground. My whole body ached. My clothes clung to me, cold and heavy, but I didn't care, because I'd just watched a mother do the impossible. She'd fought a predator. She'd trusted a stranger. She'd stood between death and her child, and refused to move. And she'd won. I sat there in the mud for a long time, just breathing. The world felt different somehow, quieter, like the river itself was trying to forget what had just happened. The sun had climbed higher while we'd been fighting for our lives, and now it poured through the trees in golden streaks, warming my face, drying the water on my skin. The mother hadn't moved. She stayed curled around her puppy, her body a protective wall, her breathing still heavy and uneven. Every few seconds, she'd lift her head and scan the river, checking, making sure. Then she'd go back to licking her baby, her tongue working over him in long, methodical strokes. I forced myself to stand. My legs shook, but they held. I took a slow step toward them, moving carefully, making myself small, non-threatening. "Hey," I said softly. My voice came out rough. Let me make sure he's okay." The mother's head snapped up. Her eyes met mine. For a second, I thought she might growl, might warn me off, but then something passed between us. Some understanding born in the chaos we just survived together. She didn't move away. She just watched me, waiting. I knelt beside them, keeping my movements slow and deliberate. The puppy was still trembling, his small body racked with shivers despite his mother's warmth. I ran my hands gently over him, checking for blood, for broken bones, for anything the crocodile's teeth might have punctured. He was bruised, scared, shaking, but breathing. "He's okay," I whispered, more to myself than to her. "He's going to be okay." The mother let out a long shuddering breath, and then she did something that almost broke me all over again. She pressed her body against my side, not asking for anything, not demanding comfort, just leaning, like she'd been holding herself together through sheer will for so long, and now that it was over, now that someone else was there, she could finally let herself feel it. I wrapped my jacket around both of them without thinking. The puppy disappeared into the fabric, just a small lump of warmth. The mother tucked her head under my arm and closed her eyes. We stayed like that until we all stopped shaking. I don't know how much time passed before I heard voices. Footsteps crunching through the underbrush. Someone had seen us from the road, called it in. Wildlife officers arrived with nets and radios, and concerned faces, checking the area, making sure the crocodile was really gone. They wanted to take the dogs. "Protocol," they said. "Check them over properly. Make sure the puppy wasn't injured internally." But when they reached for him, the mother's eyes opened. That same hardness returned. That same unmovable determination. I put a hand on her head. "It's okay," I told her. "They're trying to help." She looked at me, really looked at me, and after a long moment she relaxed. Just enough. They were gentle with the puppy, careful, and true to their word. He was mostly fine. Bruised ribs, minor lacerations, nothing that wouldn't heal. A miracle, they kept saying. An absolute miracle. I came back the next day, and the day after that, I brought food, water, a soft blanket I thought they might like. The mother was always there, always watching, but she didn't run when she saw me. She'd stand, walk a few steps closer and wait. On the third day, the puppy tried to play. He stumbled on shaky legs, pounced at a leaf, and tumbled over his own feet. The mother watched him with eyes that looked almost lighter, less haunted. On the fifth day, she let me pet her. Just once. Just for a moment. Her fur was coarse under my palm, her body still lean and hard from living wild, but she leaned into the touch, just slightly, before pulling away. I kept visiting. Every morning. Same time, same path, and then one morning, about 2 weeks after the river, I arrived and they were already standing, waiting. The mother looked at me for a long moment. The puppy bounced at her feet, stronger now, his tail wagging with clumsy enthusiasm. She turned toward the tree line, paused, looked back, not with fear, not with need, with something else, something I can only call gratitude. Then she disappeared into the trees, her puppy bounding after her, and I stood there alone on that muddy riverbank, watching the space where they'd been. I never saw them again, but sometimes, when I walk that path in the early morning mist, I swear I hear a bark in the distance, protective, strong, alive, a mother who fought the river and won, and somehow that's enough.